Welcome back to the House of Flowers podcast, y'all. This is just probably one of the coolest interviews I'm gonna be able to do. I have my mom here. Say hey, Mom.
Hi, everyone.
So, as most of y'all know who have been tuning into my life and checking me out on YouTube throughout the years, y'all know that I was adopted at birth. 4 years ago, I went on a search and I found my biological family. And today is the very first time y'all are going to be able to hear from my mom. I know some of y'all have been asking questions. Y'all see me online with my brothers. And I haven't really just had the opportunity to sit down and talk to my mom and allow her to share her story. I know me and Jamal did an interview and you weren't able to be there that day. So it kind of just worked out the way it needed to be.
Yes.
And I think it's only fair that you get to tell your story online because, I mean, people want to know. And, you know, our story is very unique.
Very.
So, I mean, I want to get into why, but I want to start off with some other questions that you guys sent us. So before we get started, make sure y'all follow us on every platform. It's House of Flowers podcast, House of Flowers on all platforms. So make sure to follow us, give us a follow, show us some love. And let's get into these questions that you guys sent us. Well, first of all, Mom, how are you doing?
I'm great. I'm really excited about this. I have always, how would I say, I haven't been shy about my life. And today to bring it to the world, it's a good feeling.
Yeah.
It's a good feeling.
I think so too. Like, it's crazy that we're even sitting here right now. Like, I feel like it's gonna be a emotional podcast for myself, probably for you too. But yeah, like I didn't even know 4 years ago that I would be doing this right now.
Right.
But the journey has been extremely epic to me. Like you've been a great person in my life, and we're still getting to know each other. But it's been a pleasure. Like it's been everything to me.
Vice versa.
And I appreciate it. The first question I want to ask is did you ever think we would be here right now?
Yes, because one, I believe in a higher power, a God that answers prayers, and it was always my prayer every January that you guys would come back, reach out to me. And I actually started that prayer when you were 18.
Wow. And it's crazy because I found out about you on January 1st. So it was your New Year's resolution every year. Well, it actually happened that way because I was chilling on New Year's and I just get a random message from the lady who's helping me find y'all. And she's like, hey, do you want the news now? Happy New Year, by the way. And so it's crazy how that lined up that way, you know. And the second thing is New Year's Day is my adopted mom's birthday. And we always talked about like eventually us being connected through her. But she passed away. So then I was like on my own to try to figure everything out. So your prayer did get answered, which is that's why. So if you believe in a higher power, it's so important to believe in something because it happens, you know. Did you tell anybody in your life about me? Or me and my brother, we both got adopted. Did you tell anyone?
So, yes, anybody that lived in my space, friends and family, always knew about the adoption. Your brother Lance, from 6th grade, where he could actually understand, right, what was going on and what I was talking about, period, his maturity level, is when I told him about his siblings being adopted.
Wow. And how did he take that?
He was kind of, set off like, wow, I have brothers and sisters.
Yeah.
He was a little excited. Of course, as a child, he was like, well, I'm going to wait till I become something really big and rich, and then I'm going to go find them.
Yeah.
And bring them back home.
Sounds like Lance.
Yeah.
Dang, that's crazy. I feel like whenever I found out that I had siblings, it made me want to look even harder. It made me more eager to know who they were. But what's really crazy is that we all have the same. We had the same mom and dad. So how hard? I know you. I went up for adoption. Lance was kept. Jamal went up for adoption. Why was Lance kept and not Jamal?
So during a time of growth for myself, maturity, financial growth, I decided, you know what, I can do this. I can be a single mom. And so I kept Lance. Then, same father, but he never helped me with Lance.
Mm.
And so when I got ready to have Jamal, I was like, wow, now I'm cutting into two children's lives again, financially and emotionally. And again, my maturity level still wasn't there. It was kind of there, but not quite for raising two children.
Right.
So I made the difficult decision again to put my last baby up for adoption.
Yeah.
Probably one of the toughest
Mm-hmm.
because I had already kept one child.
Yeah.
But it was basically there was no financial support from your biological father. And that was like, I can't let any of these kids that I've brought into the world struggle
Yeah.
in any way.
Yeah. So you also got to choose my parents. What made you choose them?
So I worked with Gina at Walmart for probably about a year. And that was during pregnancy and after. But one day she is sitting in the lunchroom for the employees, and my roommate at the time is hearing her talk about, I guess their anniversary was coming up. Mm-hmm. And Pat, my friend, says, do you have any kids? You're probably going to celebrate, right? And Pat used to ask questions and get communication going, and she did. She told her, no, we 17 years and we've never had kids. And my friend Pat's like, oh, you need to know that my roommate is considering adoption. Mm-hmm. And so Gina reaches out to me and she's like, I want you to come meet my husband, sit down and have a conversation with us. And I saw their hearts. Mm-hmm. I saw the love. I saw somebody that really wanted children. Mm-hmm. And that's how they become the choice.
Yeah. And I mean, I wouldn't have traded that for the world. I just don't know any other life outside of them besides the one that I have now, which I'm grateful for. But I think you made a rock solid decision on that. Like, I mean, that was good reading people because they did a great job, you know.
And I like to add to that, I reached out to them because I still had a little bit of contact. They let me see you till you were 2 years old. Mm-hmm. I have several pictures that I took of them and you. And, so fast forwarding to when I was pregnant of Jamal, I reached out to her. You guys had already moved to Corpus. And it was probably the last call I had made to them. But I was checking to see if there was any way that I could keep you and Jamal together. Yeah. And who better than somebody that I already knew, mm-hmm. right? And your family had already taken on a lot of financial responsibility. And so if you see that parallel between what I was trying to accomplish so that mm-hmm. neither one of you guys would ever suffer financially right. or emotionally, they were doing the same thing. They couldn't take on a second child. Yeah. They had other things, but then that would be the last conversation I had because I never wanted to disrupt that family.
Yeah. I think I remember when that happened, and the way they asked me was, "Do you want a sibling?" And I was like, "Yeah, like of course." And they also said, "You're gonna have to share your toys," and I was like, "No, I don't want a sibling then." But yeah, I think I remember around that time when they were considering, but I just didn't know what was going on in the background, you know.
Yeah.
So during this time, as I got older, did you ever think about searching for me?
I did. But I waited till you were 18 again. I never wanted to disrupt the family.
Mhm.
And I remember that last phone call to Gina. She was like, "Hey, Joe doesn't know that I'm talking to you."
Yeah.
And so, she was kind of letting me know in her own way that, hey, he's not going to let me continue,
Yeah.
conversation, which I understand because back in the day, you would hear about biological mothers coming back for their biological
Yeah.
children and take them away from a home that they were comfortable in and there was love. And,
Yeah.
you know, I never wanted them to feel that way. So I did my searches when you turned 18. Unfortunately, I didn't find you because I could not find the adoption papers. Somewhere in one of my moves, I lost them.
Hmm.
And in that search for you, I could not remember their last name.
Yeah. I want you to touch base on a little bit about that because there's a reason why you didn't remember the last name, you know, because you put all of our stuff in the attic and you like kind of wanted to protect your own feelings. How was that? Like, how were you able to give a kid up for adoption and kind of like create this block in your mind?
There's, how would I say, there's never a block.
Hmm.
It's always there.
Yeah.
You, you kind of go through a grieving process, just kind of like death.
Hmm.
But I have always been this person I can't stay stuck. I got
Hmm.
to prepare for the future.
Yeah.
And so mine was that prayer for the future for one day to see you both
Hmm.
again. Um, I think that's basically what kept me going. And I was able to also keep from having children with my spouses, right? I was
Right.
like, my first husband, my second husband, they had to know about you
Hmm.
because I was not going to have any children. I'm not trying to replace what I
Right.
have out there.
Yeah.
And so I think it was just the hopes of seeing you guys again.
Yeah. Dang, that's deep because there's a lot of people in this world who may need to give their kids up for adoption, and you know, that's one thing that they have to learn how to deal with is just like moving on. And it is very similar to death, grieving. I could only imagine, you know, like it's got to be the same. Somebody's missing from your life after you've had them, you know.
Yes.
So I really commend you for it because most people would look at my story and be like, why, you know, that's not fair. This, she kept one, gave up the other one. Like, why do you even give the grace? And I just feel like the least you could do was like find us a family, you know.
Yeah.
That's like minimum because we're brought into this world alone, you know, like everyone is. So like first and foremost, like even if you have a kid, like if you're not there and like if something happens to you, your kid's now alone, you know. So at least you did what you could to make sure that we were set up to live a normal life, you know, and we didn't have to be aborted or anything like that. Like,
Right.
you know, we could not be here today. So that's how I look at it. People ask me why I give grace, and that's the reason why. Because I mean, I had a great family, so there's no ill will. You know, I was raised not to be that way, anyways, with anyone, and you just move forward and start in the present. You know, that's I'm all about just in the now. So mainly that's my perspective. Out of all of this, did you regret anything? Did you regret it?
So that's a two-part answer. I regret because I didn't get to see you guys grow up.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't get to see, you cheerlead or, school sports. I
Yeah.
didn't get to see that. I don't regret because I knew that you guys were going to be taken care of.
Right.
I'd put it in God's hands. I knew the family, your family. I knew Jamal's family through even letters that he was going to have a good life.
Yeah.
So I didn't regret it because I was not mature enough yet to be that mother that I needed to be. And financially, I was not stable enough.
Yeah. Well, you were 18 when you had me?
Yes.
And I don't know, 18, you're just now starting life,
Yes.
So it's a baby having a baby, you know what I mean?
And
So.
I didn't have any emotional support. My mom died when I was 15. So there was no one there to really mentor me into motherhood.
Mm-hmm. And that plays a huge role. Like, how do you do it with no support on top of baby daddies creating other babies with everybody in the city?
Right.
You know.
And siblings that are way older than I am and had their completed families.
Mm-hmm.
It was not an easy.
Yeah. Was it hard seeing me as an adult?
That was an interesting question when I seen it.
A gay adult on top of that.
It was interesting because being apart all that time,
mm-hmm.
I still felt this huge attachment to you.
Mm-hmm.
You have so much of my DNA. I was like looking at myself.
Yeah. We look just alike.
But younger. I was like, wow.
Yeah.
And just certain movements. It was great seeing you as an adult.
Yeah.
Would I have loved to have seen you as a child? Yes. And fortunately, Gina and Joe gave me that opportunity till you were 2.
Yeah.
But it was great seeing you as an adult.
Yeah. I was pretty nervous because, obviously I am who I am. And I didn't want to have to come out the closet again. Like, I already went through that shit, so I didn't want to have to do it again. And I appreciated that you were open to even just learning, because obviously, like, Lance isn't gay, so you didn't have to immediately deal with something like that. And people have to be taught how to deal with stuff like that, because that's not how everybody was raised. Like, people kick their kids out all the time. So I was like, dang, here I am grown, about to have to come out to my mom that I just found, So I was glad that you accepted me for who I am, like, right away with no questions asked.
And I can add to that. I think that God prepares you for every little path if you open your eyes
mm-hmm.
and you open your heart.
Yeah.
And he did. He prepared me a whole 2 weeks in advance.
Yeah.
Hanging out with a friend who had struggled with her son being gay.
Really?
And came around realizing that, hey, you got to let him be so
mm-hmm.
that he can figure this out for himself.
Right.
And she did. She felt a huge release. And, I have never, like you said, never dealt with it.
mm-hmm.
But I feel like that couple of weeks was enough for me to be prepared for what was coming my way.
Yeah. Dang. Yeah. You never know. Everything happens on time for a reason. Another thing is, we lived like 10 minutes apart for like the last...
Yeah, like what, 1 exit or 2 exits?
2 exits down. So there's no telling how many times we cross paths on a regular basis right up the street. So when I found out you lived up the street too, isn't it crazy how the universe keeps your people together though?
That's awesome.
Like, it just works like that. And people say it's weird, but I don't really believe in coincidences. Like, I just think that's just how the divine works.
Yeah, I don't know how many times I went to that Tom Thumb.
Yeah.
And I know Leslie told me several times that that's where you guys used to shop. Yes. It's like, wow.
At the Tom Thumb, trying to play Monopoly and win some $5 million or whatever they got in the jackpot. Sorry, y'all. For those y'all who can't see the podcast, we're sipping some Merlot and what do you have?
Malbec.
Malbec.
Argentine.
Nice. Mom's a wine connoisseur, and she's put me on to wine too, because I wasn't a wine drinker prior to that. And
yeah, she's hard to convince.
Yeah, I'm picky and I don't like a lot of stuff. So speaking of DNA, like, I when I was growing up, I always wanted to know what I look like and if there was anyone else out there that looked like me. And I feel like me and my brothers look just alike. It's crazy. Was it crazy to see us all together for the first time?
Yeah, it was. But when you when you have these children, you're like, you expect it, right?
Hmm.
But to see so much characteristic
Yeah.
in the same place
Yeah.
from three people, it's like, whoa.
Yeah.
And I think the first time that we all came together, all I could do was just sit there and stare at you guys because I really did not know, you know, what to say other
Yeah.
than to just let you guys be because I was just so excited
Yeah.
that I was speechless.
Yeah. When I saw my brothers for the first time, we were just like, Lance was just staring at me. He started crying and he was like, I just can't stop looking at you. It's like, I know, me too. I'm looking in the mirror, and I mean, it's just a really good feeling because, I mean, my brothers are everything. You are too, but like, it's something about like being able to have siblings. So I'm glad you had them too. I'm glad you had them too,
Me
because
too.
they're my best friends now, and
Mm.
I never thought I would have like siblings and stuff. So it makes me kind of cry,
I
because
know. I know.
I'm happy to have them, and they really are my best friends. They're like twins. They're my last
Yes.
like triplets or something. It's
They
so
love
weird.
their big sister. They
Yeah.
love
So
her.
I happy. I love my brothers like they're everything to me. I hope they know that. I try to
They do.
reiterate that to
They
them.
do.
But even though we don't see each other that often, we're in 3 different major cities in Texas. We're not that far, but you know how life gets. So,
Yeah.
but I'm glad that it kind of came full circle, and that we have the opportunity to know you, and you get the opportunity to know us, because I think it's important. Like, family is important, whether you find them in the past, present, or future.
Yes.
You just pick up where you left off and make the most out of it. The main question for my following is, why was I given up in the first place?
It all does stem back to financial.
Mhm.
At the time that I was pregnant with you, I worked at Walmart,
Mhm.
minimum wage. Um,
And not that there's anything wrong with
no,
Walmart, but back then, minimum wage is a different story than it is
oh,
today.
big time,
Because
big
when I
time.
started working, it was $5.25 minimum wage. So I could only imagine what back then was.
There was no benefits. It was hard to even get a whole 40 hours in because they just wouldn't schedule you for 40 hours. It was usually 20 so that they couldn't pay you those benefits.
Yeah.
My life had been kind of one of those hurry up and get something done. And that was because I left home at the age of 18.
Yeah.
I believe my father was just tired of raising children, and I was a child of very older parents. Rushing to start life was not easy.
Mhm.
Was not easy for me. I didn't have a higher education other than high school. I did go to a technical school, had my first office job, got laid off 6 months later, and they closed the place. So it was kind of like, okay, now I move on to my next story, right?
Mhm.
I meet a man who I think has it all together. And I'm like, yay. And then I get pregnant. And I'm like, oh, we're going to have a life together. That didn't happen. He didn't support. And me with my naive thoughts, I'm like, what do I do?
Yeah.
What do I do? And I think sometimes I do want to respond to this. People often probably wonder, okay, you gave up a child. Why'd you stay with him?
Mhm.
Just because the old way of thinking was you stay with that person that you've had a kid with
Mhm.
and you try to make it work.
Yeah.
And guess what?
That
He kept
old.
feeding me the lies during that time too. I was young and, yeah, things are going to get better. Things are going to get better. That never happened. And so, yes, it was very, very difficult. The reasoning behind it was always financial, not to have a life for my children,
Yeah.
to have a need for things, lacking stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I thank God for Joe and Gina that they could provide.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, because I mean, I know I faced struggles with them, but I was also the only child, their only thing that they had to worry about, you know. So I got to play sports and do things like they spent probably their last dime on me. You know, everything was about me. So he made a good decision. Like I lived a very great life, even though we did struggle a little bit, like any other family would, you know, struggling in America. It wasn't always shits and giggles or peaches and cream. You know what I mean? It wasn't always that way, but I was taken care of. I had a roof over my head. I didn't get physically abused, you know, so I had a great life. So just to let you know that you did do the right thing, you know.
Yeah. And I can add, I think that Lance would probably tell you the same.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't lack love, but he didn't grow up with everything that
he wanted.
In fact, there were a lot of times that I couldn't even, being just a single parent, I couldn't even get him into sports outside of school because I was working.
Yeah.
I was working. Sometimes he tells me he hates me for that, and then he turns around and says, "I'm glad you didn't put me in football all this time. I don't have any injuries."
Yeah. No,
but,
for real.
I think across the board, I'm sure every parent struggles with the financial aspect one point in their lives. Mm-hmm. To be a single parent, it's not easy either.
Yeah, I get it. Well, I really appreciate you sharing your side of the story because I feel like it could help so many women out there or even men out there who are going through this with their significant other of not being able to afford a child or whatever the case may be. I think our story is real unique because a lot of people don't have the same experience. Like I could have found you and you were not a good person.
Right.
You know, you could have been strung out. You could have wanted nothing to do with me. And everything I wanted up front and asked for, you gave me that. You know, I wanted to know my medical history. I wanted to know where I come from, who I am. And now I know all three of those things. So I appreciate that being your main priority too when I met you. The first day we met, she was like, well, let's get down to everything you wanted to know about you. And you just told me straight up, and this is where you come from. This is my medical history. And if you want to move forward, we can. And if not, we don't have to. It's up to you. And I didn't feel pressured to do any of that. So thank you for being strong and hanging in there with me.
I am just so thrilled that I have you guys back in my life.
Yeah.
It's been such a joy, and I am so excited about our future.
Me too. I'm really excited. I'm excited to share it with you, and we're having fun. So
yes, we are.
I appreciate it. It's a good time. It's a good time to meet each other.
Yes, it is.
All right, Mom. Well, thank you so much for coming on my podcast.
I love you.
I love you too. Thank you so much again, and let's go hang out now.
Yes.
And get off this mic.
Yes.
Peace. Y'all make sure to follow us on all social platforms. Well, you know where Leslie's at. She's not here today, but on House of Flowers podcast, on all platforms. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. We just made House of Flowers, the House of Flowers on YouTube. So we'll see y'all in the next episode.
Bye.
Peace.